Hi everyone, welcome to game 3 of the match between Lasker and Steinitz. So after knight takes knight, bishop takes knight here, we have an interesting position. We have a knight versus a bishop, however black's pawn structure is compromised. So first question, it's white to move here, but the only question I'm going to ask you is who has the advantage, and by how much? Alright, I'm going to tell you now. White is definitely better here, because these pawns are weak. We have an open file where we can attack them. The other good thing we have are key squares for our knight on c5. So what move should white play? Well, if we don't play the move that Lasker played, black will play bishop to d5 and stop our knight maneuvering. So he played knight to e4 to go knight c5. And after bishop d5, knight c5, rook b4 looks annoying, but we just play rook to d1. And now we have a kind of special type of position here. It's kind of a static pawn structure, which means that the pawn structure, especially for black, is not going to change. Black has no pawn breaks, and on top of that has really no active plan. So white can be really patient in this type of position and just slowly go about improving his position, which is exactly what Lasker does. King a7, f3, king f2, rook e1. That's a key move, stopping rook to e8. So we make sure to keep the e file. And now if black goes back to b4, well, we can just go king to e3 and defend that pawn. Bishop f7 was played. And now the thing is, we want to go king e4. I'm sorry, king e3. However, then black has rook to e8 potentially. So he just checked him first. King d7. Probably if king d5... Maybe rook c1 is really annoying. I haven't done any big analysis on it. If we want to be safer, king e3. But king d7 was played, king e3, bishop d5, put the knight back on c5, and now we've transferred our king from g1 to d3 without giving up anything in the process. And so this is the plan. Just slowly improve our position without giving our opponent anything. And once we've improved our position to the maximum, only then do we strike. And the problem with this for black is it's just so unpleasant to deal with. And therefore, often what you see is the defending side tries to do something when they really shouldn't, because just sitting there and defending is just too hard. And so this is what happens. h5, h4, rook h8. I mean, some vague ideas of this and this, but it doesn't really accomplish much because it's just rook e2. So white kind of ignores it. Rook to b8, stopping king to b4. White goes f4, which is a little tricky. Number one, it stops g5, and number two, if take, rook g1 and take on g7. Black just went rook g8 now, with the idea of g5. And now exactly like what I talked about earlier happens. Lasker plays g3. Now it looks like black can play g5, because after g5, take, rook e5, takes, check. And when the king moves, black goes rook to g4, attacking two pawns. However, Lasker correctly evaluated that this position is not good for black. And therefore, you notice he just enticed his opponent to make a mistake. He didn't even have to do anything further to advance his position. And you're going to see why it's a mistake in a second. King b4, rook to g4, attacking both pawns. And so if rook takes, and then black takes on c5. So white's only choice is knight check, and then we take on h5. And it looks like we've traded pawns here, but two things have happened. Number one, white has gained a passed pawn on the h file, but number two, this king is very active, and it's going to come after the a pawn, and we're going to have two passed pawns. And watch as this plan goes into effect. Knight check, so that we can play, the knight now defends the b pawn, so we can go a4. Rook to d5, b4, and there's no real way to stop the eventual king to a6, and king takes a7, and here it goes. And now the a pawn is just going to be too strong. You can't take because rook f8 is checkmate. h6, h7, Rook e4. I'm not sure why he did rook e4. But this game is basically over. The a pawn's just going to be too strong. And this one really does it. Because if rook takes pawn, check, and knight f6. And if black tries to stop that with a move like bishop b3, knight f6 happens, with rook g8 coming next move. So after rook to g4, black resigned. But I thought this type of game is very instructive because you see the patience and you see what happens when you're defending without counterplay. You're just desperate for any kind of activity, and even if it doesn't work out in your favor, it's just so hard to resist doing it. And it made Lasker's job a little bit easier, although I think he would have won the game anyway. He did have a nice advantage. So this gave Lasker a 4-0 lead. I apologize, I skipped game 3. He won that game also. So Steinitz is looking a bit outmatched in this matchup, starting down 4-0. Thanks guys for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.